Well, call the meeting to order. Okay. Does everybody look at the minutes? Any discussion, corrections?
Roll call first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to catch up.
Dan Anderson,
Here,
Jim Weaver,
Here.
Franklin Hahn,
here,
Wayne Runnels,
Here.
Tim Bissell.
now we'll go to the minute.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I guess if you want to read the notice,
What is the public hearing? Please take notice that an application will be received from the following persons for a variance of setback requirements. Nathan and Jennifer Warren. 3 acres, third edition, lots 11 and 12, block 001, section 24, township 22, ring 6, Houston County, Minnesota, 030465000, Caledonia Township. Variance to allow an accessory building to exceed the height of the principal building. Section 2914, subdivision 1-3. The hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County, Minnesota, at 6 p.m. on Thursday, July 25th, 2024. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying of said application. Comments should be mailed to the Environmental Services Department, 304 South Marshall Street, Caledonia, Minnesota, 55921, or email to martin.address must be received by Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. Comments in regard to the petition received by the state will be part of the public record and will be made available for review by the Board of Adjustment prior to the meeting. Houston County Board of Adjustment by Eric Zoning Administration.
well, we heard some of the comments from the applicant that we, not being critical, but when you sit back there, it's very hard to hear. And I'm not complaining, I'm just merely making a statement, so we should go through it. Questions for the board, for the applicants. I have one question on the zoning. How does that zoning read that on this height, accessory building taller than a house? Does that apply just to a house? Does that apply to,
Structure in general.
so if I was to build, but for example, put in a lake that's higher than my house, or does it have to be right next to the house? Or is it in general,
And this, you said,
if I was to put in a grain lake or a silo, it has to be right next to the house, or I was just curious how that zoning
well,
ordinance read.
it's certain districts.
You're in a different, this is the residential district.
Okay,
So
so,
that makes a difference also.
okay, so agricultural district got a different set of ordinance. All right, that's answered my question.
So can you start from the beginning, because I missed it?
Well, for the variance, we're just looking to get the height is going to be roughly 4 to 5 feet higher than
What's the building?
it's going to be basically a gymnasium for recreational for the neighborhood kids to get to play basketball, volleyball, keep them off their phones and iPads and stuff. Just yeah,
Good.
try
Okay.
to, yes. No, just for the neighborhood out there and his child and to keep them all active and just they love sports out there. So that's basically where we're at.
Is this like a membership organization?
No.
You charging fees?
No, just personal use.
So is there gonna be parking out there for the gymnasium?
There won't be need for it. I mean, none of the kids that are there would, I mean, it's not for 16, 17-year-old. It's basically just for, he's just doing it for the neighborhood kids. I mean, the ones that can't get into a gym, that can't drive to the gym, you know?
Okay, so you have 1.5 acres, right? So with your house and the gymnasium, how much leftover grass do you have?
Well, I wouldn't even know how to calculate it. I mean, it's
Would it be
really,
like half?
oh, it's all over half. Yeah, Yeah, it's like another,
You're basically a double lot.
it's a double lot. Yes, he bought the other lot.
That's
It's
what I-
there
Okay,
was
so
two
you
lots.
would have room for parking
So,
if it gets to
Oh.
be that way where the city's coming out.
I mean, he would
to
have
play ball.
what his driveway is right now, where his. Current, he's got a big slab up front, in front of his garage right now that is probably 40 by 30. And this new proposed building is still another 25 feet away from the edge of his driveway, so he could. Essentially have 40 feet by 55 feet or so of. Flat concrete up there if ever it came to something like that, which I don't
So
foresee.
plenty of room.
Yeah, which I don't foresee ever being a possibility.
Can someone explain what the conditional use permit that was just granted allows you to do?
He would be better at the
It
wording than that
allows-
than I.
it allows it. Very strange in the rule on how they say you have to have a conditional use permit for associated activities like this. And so it's really allowing a larger use than for an accessory structure, what the conditional use permit was.
And what are the conditions?
The conditions were just our standard conditions, tree and stormwater erosion control. Were the three that were.
But there are no other conditions. This building could be used for anything.
Oh, in terms of its, the intent is that in the residential district, it stays residential. But it is not
Can it be occupied?
as a dwelling, no,
Okay.
it's an accessory structure designated as an accessory,
So if,
so it's recreation.
so if this building was sold. And the next owner. Back to what you're talking about, and the next owner decided to make a house out of it. Living quarters, not a house, living quarters. Who's going to inspect it in the county to see that it stays as a gymnasium? Nobody? I mean, they don't have the manpower or lady power, whatever you wanna call it, to check all these buildings. I'm just asking a
Yeah, no,
question.
it's a very fair question.
No,
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean, in terms of we follow up on
Next owner.
complaints. If we got a complaint, you know, will we go out and look at it? Yes, I mean, in terms of if it's been partitioned off and all of a sudden it's become that, then that's basically starting a permit that would be an after the fact, we don't have to grant it. That would be the mechanism to address the fact that they did something without a permit. In terms of the dwelling. I mean, in terms of how big it is in the area. That might get interesting too, in the sense that you might not have your own individual acre. That would allow a septic system. I mean, I'm playing.
Is this building on a separate lot?
No.
No, and that's why I
Right
don't
now,
think
it's-
much of this is
It'd have to be
completely
split,
relevant
yeah,
because it's all one lot. So if it were to get sold in the future, it would get sold as one lot. They would not, I would imagine they would not rezone it where he could sell just his house. You know, because it's all one lot now. It's 1.6 acres. It was, he had his original lot. And then he bought this lot from the other neighbor who was gonna sell it.
I don't think that's the way it works. I mean, you have two individual lots. They can be sold individually.
It's zoned as one lot. It was originally.
It's,
Okay, it's titled as one lot.
You have two individual lots. And you have title of both of them, but there's still two individual lots.
Well, I guess I didn't look at that when I just looked onto the beacon and everything
It's
and it
one
has
lot,
it as one lot.
parcel.
And on
One
here,
parcel.
yeah, and on here it has it as
When we bought it,
1.5.
They combined everything into one parcel.
so you got a new time.
Correct.
Okay,
So your description now of your lot includes both of them.
Correct.
And I'm assuming that's the way it's recorded in the assessor's office.
That's correct. Yes.
I'm guessing.
Yep, it is. Mike Murphy did that. It's one lot. It's all combined. It was two separate lots when I bought it. It combined into one lot.
Okay.
Same parcel,
Is there
one
city
parcel.
sewer out
one
there, or
patch.
is that private? It's all private?
It's not city.
Okay, so I know it's township, but sometimes when it's close, they. So you have your own, each. House out there has their own sewer system, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
And they're proposing a holding tank.
Yeah, I heard that part, yeah, well, but Ken.
No, I didn't, but that's, yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah, that's within, I mean, that's part of the whole.
Would that be
Zoning.
a cement floor then?
yes. Yeah,
What was your comment earlier, Jim? I couldn't hear it back. And that doesn't have anything to do with granting a variance, but. What was, I couldn't hear.
I was just pointing out the idea that what is the intent of the zoning ordinance and, in the zoning ordinance, the words, let me see if I can find them. Customarily incidental, referring to the accessory structure. And I looked up the meaning of customarily incidental, and it said, to be customary, the use or structure must be commonly or habitually found in connection with the principal use or structure. So, no, I guess most of us would assume that an accessory structure would refer to something like a storage shed or a garage or something like along those lines, and not, as a building this large on a residential lot. And that was one point I brought up. The other point concerned with the size of the building. There was a reference in the zoning ordinance that referred to a garage being no larger than 1,500 square feet. So that was, my thinking was, what's the intent of the ordinance? Are we gonna allow a building this large as an accessory structure on a residential lot? I guess I was just playing devil's advocate and just seeing what people thought of those.
But I think that ship has sailed with the planning commission.
Right,
Yeah, I know, but I wanted
Right.
him to, I didn't, I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench in here, I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify
no,
this, because our concern here
We need
is the variance.
Yeah, we need to look at it, whether we want to give them the variance for the height.
Right.
That's it.
correct.
That's our only job.
If that was a separate property house, that'd be no problem with me. So. The
Yeah.
2-story,
Actually, yeah, if they were two lots that were big enough, separate, they would be considered individual parcels. And if that standard is applied. Parcels, yeah.
so each, I mean, this height would not be a problem for if I was building a house.
It's an individual house. Yeah.
And it's similar size to what the houses are in that area.
Was there anything in the, from comments from in mail or any public comments here?
The one comment came from the township. The issue was the surface water. That's where we put the comment in about the stormwater control. We did have Dave Walters go out and look at it this morning, but I think he got into. He got into a situation this afternoon that I can't talk about, but it's an enforcement related situation. That he wasn't able to get back to me on that. But yeah, in terms of so the township's comments were about stormwater, and then they made reference to the covenants, but we. Don't enforce.
I don't think the covenants speak to it. I read the covenants and they don't speak to an issue with this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
the one written copy, and that's included back. That's it.
But
The covenants or that Green Acres covenant, we're not the enforcers of
No.
it.
But you're
So all we're
satisfied
doing
with
this, our zoning.
with the concern with the township in terms of surface water and digging into the hill and like that? Okay. And we've allowed that before, so.
Very- so-
Well, we move
You know,
on to the
excuse us for
findings.
being
We got-
suspicious, but this is such a nice thing to do. I can't figure it out. You know. Who are you? Yeah. I needed a neighbor like you when I was a kid.
Yeah, good kids out there.
Yeah.
Want to go ahead with the finding?
Subdivision of findings required, number one, the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the district control staff analysis. The accessory building is allowed in the residential district when including the functional use is an efficient land use that minimizes new development and is the goal of the comprehensive plan.
Just kind of. Is this type of a use normally part of that accessory building? That's, I think, maybe the bigger question, recreational. And yeah, that would be, I guess, in a way, because the kids' playhouse or whatever would be normal. Not usually that big.
But accessory building. That you don't really, when you build and get a permit for a accessory building, do you have to designate what you're using it for? Okay.
That's the scary one of down the road is someone buys that property and all of a sudden, oh, well, let's just have a rummage sale here and do this. And we'll do sales out of this room and things like that.
It's residential, wouldn't be
Yeah, they
allowed.
won't be able to.
But if they're doing it off the cuff, on just kind of on the private,
There's a lot of that.
I mean, if people will do that and they can bring in a lot of stuff that way.
There's- I mean, the one thing they did say is they don't have to.
True.
All in favor of the staff analysis, say aye. Opposed? Go ahead.
Number two, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls and the proposed use of property. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Staff analysis, this type of accessory facility requires a high ceiling height which is higher than the principal existing structure.
That's because you're doing basketball and hockey.
All in
Is
favor?
it also with the grade?
It is,
Part of the grade, I mean, I drove out there on the way out in.
Yep.
And it looks like if anything, the grade on that area is higher than where the house is.
yes, it is. What we're doing is where that is two separate parts. The first part is like just a sitting area where you may have a golf simulator. And then to keep with the flow of the land, we're dropping the basketball court 4 feet from that again, to keep our height down and to keep the lay of the land where we don't have to have very minimal retaining walls of any sort.
You're the contractor?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go ahead.
Number three, the variance requests are due to special conditions and circumstances unique to the property not created by the property owner. Staff analysis, the lot does not have enough vertical relief to allow the accessory structure to be at or below the elevation.
All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Opposed? Go ahead.
Number four, the variances cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. Staff analysis, the board may find that the variance related to the proposed accessory structure is the only way to feasibly resolve the height restriction, and that the variance is the minimum variance that would alleviate the practical difficulty of limited height restriction for an accessory structure in the residential district.
Any comments on that? If not, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go ahead.
Number five, the variances will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. Staff analysis, granting the variance will not have a negative impact on the criteria listed above. Additionally, the accessory structure is not anticipated to have an impact on the above criteria. The septic addition will be an approved design and permitted.
So on the sewer, then along with the permit, then the holding tank is part of the permit.
The holding tank will be a septic.
Okay. All in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go ahead.
Number six, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by Minnesota state law. Staff analysis, the granting of the variances for the height in the residential district does not conflict with any restricted uses. There is no map floodplain on the parcel. There are no known state standards applicable for the request.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I guess that's the end of it.
I move to accept the finding.
Second, who seconded it? Wayne, did you get it? Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So do you want to read, Martin, what, yes,
Grant the following variance of 8 feet to allow an existing accessory should be an accessory building to exceed the height of the principal building in accordance with section 29, subdivision 1. Not that existing.
before we make a motion, is there any other discussion?
Is there a number here that we're talking about?
8 feet,
Okay, that's not in there.
it's at the beginning. Variance of 8.
Variance should be allowed.
I've done to read it again.
Yeah,
Okay, corrected. Variance of 8 feet to allow an accessory building to exceed the height of the principal building in accordance with section 29.14, subdivision 1, subsection.
No, that's accommodating because of the terrain changes and everything like that. It's not just the building.
oh, there we go, yeah. Okay.
Probably under 18.
It 99% sure it's closer to 5. Yes. Yep, we just
So
wanted
moved.
to be cautious.
Got a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Jim Weezer,
Aye.
Aye.
Again,
I,
and this.
Okay, I guess now you can leave if you want to. It's a
know,
public meeting if you want.
What bothers me is Caledonia is already kicking ass from everybody in the county, and now it's gonna get worse. You know, give it up a little bit. Jeez,
Standards are high, we gotta keep the kids working.
come on.
Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Discussion from the board, did anything ever materialize on that building down there in Welke Drive? Did they get their permit or did that go through or?
We've got the engineering proposal that's very, very general. Put together some comments and I routed, I'm putting together the memo and I routed it to Dave Walter and for his review, and then we're ready to send it to the consultant and Peter Chucklebottom to say, here's our review of the comments. The main thing that the proposal didn't do, this is really the intent where we're at, is that the engineers taking responsibility. They want to make that very clear. So the proposal that we got has like, this person will do this and this will do this, but they haven't identified names. And so our comments back are like, please identify who's the engineer of that. Usually that's the chief engineer who oversees it, that signs off and recognizes everybody else's. So those are the kind of comments that we have, is that we need procedurally for them to identify who's responsible. So that's the comments that are going back to the applicant and to the engineer to say, you got to change this, to say this is how you're going to do it.
It sounds like what Dave Walter was concerned with, because I heard about that at our soil and water.
No, if the engineer satisfies you, then the soil and water board doesn't have anything to say about it?
No, well, I mean, Dave Walter is
consulting on.
his review and code.
Oh, he's doing,
It's Dave Walter, not the soil and water board. We don't have any.
oh, so then it was never brought up to soil and water board.
Dave just mentioned it at our hearing, at our meeting,
Oh,
that's what was going on.
okay.
Part of it is, Wilkie is on the board. So on our soil and water board.
Oh, okay.
I will also add this, that I made it very clear to the applicant right from the get-go that, you know, the only way this kind of thing can be even conceivably done is you need a professional engineer registered in Minnesota to take the responsibility for this project. That's kind of highway project.
Yep.
And it's got to meet the design, so there's the global stability questions. There's all these things, and they have run the models, and they are meeting the factor of safety with conservative assumptions. But you know, we're going through all those steps, identifying, and had about 3 pages of comments. I'm saying.
So if the engineer the certified engineer comes up with, feasible plan to satisfy everybody. Is that engineer, if something fails down the road, is that engineer responsible, or is it, how does that work? You go to
Well-
court and let the jury decide?
I mean, I think what you're talking about is they call it errors and emissions insurance.
No.
And engineers certainly carry.
Liability.
There's also kind of a, is there time, is there maintenance? I mean, if it were to fail within the first, and I'm just guessing, it's within the first 3 to 5 years, and it wasn't a result of a giant storm event, that there could be potentially something like that. In terms of it over time, are there acknowledgements that you have consolidation, you have all kinds of other things that potentially cause a problem. The one nice thing about this is they call it a segmented retaining wall. So what it is blocks. And the blocks actually probably are a little bit forgiving, in terms of that kind of thing. As for cutting the hillside, it's probably it will improve what's there now. But I mean, the fact that have there been some slides on that hill? There have. But that's one of the questions that I'm asking in the reviews to say, you make these general assumptions. Okay, so now where are you going with the site evaluation? Because the engineer does, well, our geotechnical engineer will do this. And I'm like, okay, who is your geotechnical? Who is he reporting to? So there's some procedure that goes along with it. But in general, there's a limitation to how, they can go. But I mean, if the force is pushing back up, are stronger than the force is pushing down. it should be fine.
So if you had a big flood, it would be an act of God, is that what's considered then?
You'll hear the term force majeure, force of nature,
Yeah.
and contracts always have that. They basically say, if it's this act of God, we're too far out. And what do you want to find that? And that's
Called global warming.
Well, you know what's the nature is after you lost your barn.
Well,
I move we adjourn.
if there is, unless somebody has something before we adjourn, unless you got something to bring up. There's a card here, Martin is
Yes.
leaving,
it's been,
both boards signed it,
thank you.
and wish you good luck. in
Yeah.
your
Did you get the check?
future, and Amelia, she's just chomping at the bit, I can see her smiling there now.
Yeah.
No, it's been, you guys are great to work.
Why you're leaving, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
if I told you how this all played out, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, I got contacted by them. And they're people that I've worked with for 35 years. And it's my old projects. I worked for the state, now I'm working for the consultant who's doing the work that. the state
That's where it
requires.
money.
Well, there is a little bit of that. And then I don't have to move. It's basically, so I'm working on, a lot of my old job, I worked on the power plant landfills. up and down Mississippi River.
Okay.
And so Dairyland Power, Alliant Energy, stuff like that, boundaries. So I did a lot of industrial sites. And so it's that. And then the guy I went to graduate school with called me up. And he asked me about it and he goes, so what's your long-term plan? And I said, my exact words were, you're just as old as I am, really? And I told him, I said, well, 2 or 3 years. And then I only want to work part-time and I want to keep my old project. He goes, that's exactly what we thought you'd say. So what they want me to do is be a mentor to young engineers.
You'll be good at it.
I will give them most verbiage and the ability to talk around things that they can ever.
You gotta be a part politician.
The
I
question.
appreciated having you to work with.
I really, it's been good.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I think Ken made it.
Ken made it.
Meeting's adjourned.